The average Australian garage is 3.4 metres by 5.8 metres, which sounds great and big, except when you have to share it with the car, the boat, the kids, and anything else you can put in there. How are you supposed to get anything done?
Hey there, welcome to the Tiny Workshop. Sorry about that short delay. We had some technical issues. How are you, Patrick?
I'm good. How's your week, John?
Very busy, slaving away for the man.
Yeah, I believe it.
Now, straight up, before we get into things tonight, we just want to remind you guys out there to please subscribe to our channel and ring the bell.
Click the little notification button because it means that when we release videos, which is all the time, and they're videos about stuff that you like because it's all about woodworking, you get a notification about the video coming out.
Yeah, okay. So tonight we're going to continue our adventure into minimising clutter in your workshop. We've had a good time with our little wall panel stuff.
If you missed that, check out last week. We did a whole bunch of stuff on organising.
Yeah, okay.
But what we've decided to do this week is actually build this really handy little tool cart that's on wheels. So as well as storing stuff on the wall, you can store stuff on this little cart. And we've got some great techniques to show you how to join these panels together in a really simple and beautiful way.
Yeah, cool. Also, Jake's going to be with us again tonight, and he's going to talk about the 3 Rockstar electric hand tools. That's going to be riveting, so stick around for that. And we're also going to announce the prizes. There's 3 $50 TimberCon gift vouchers coming up.
How do I put my name in?
Well, it's too late. Part of the show, all that sort of stuff. So you don't want to miss out any of this action tonight, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about is how the problem with clutter is that clutter slows you down. And when you have limited time in your workshop, you want to be able to maximize your productivity.
You don't want to have to spend the first 20 minutes cleaning stuff up,
Yeah.
which feels like what happens every time I go into my workshop. But, you know, maybe I'm going to learn something along the way here.
Well, yeah, okay. So, like, there's 2 ways. There's kind of 2 ways to reduce clutter. What do you
I reckon that the first really important thing is don't have a bunch of tools that you don't need. Like, figure out what that core group is. So, you know, the 3 tools that Jake mentions, a great place to start with your power tools. Get yourself a core group of hand tools that you're competent with and that will do a versatile group of tasks. So maybe you don't have a single tool for every single application, but you've got a group that you're good at, and that'll do what you need.
Yeah, but then, you know, don't let that stop you shopping at TimberCon.
Buy all the tools.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. But also, every tool that has purpose in your woodworking life should have a place to live. Some of the things live on the wall, and we are going to build a mobile tool cabinet. What do you think of my model?
I don't think you're going to fit many tools in it.
Yeah, have you seen that Instagram page? Have you seen the Instagram page called Barbie Does Woodwork? I'm pretty sure that it's an American guy where everything's scaled to a Barbie doll.
Yeah.
It's absolutely worth checking out. So we're going to be building this little number here, this very quite minimalist design. Because of the limited time of the show, we've had to do a bit of preparation. So where are you at with your work?
So before the show, I pre-joined a couple of panels. So that means that John can get stuck into some of the joinery. I'm going to quickly demonstrate this, the way that I jointed these together. And I'm going to do that using a trimming router instead of a biscuit joiner.
Yeah, okay, let's have a look at them.
I'm going to jump over there. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about the tools I'm going to be using. Obviously, to clamp up any panels, you need to use some clamps. So I'm going to use some sash clamps that are wider than these boards. I'm going to be protecting the edges of the boards with some of John's battens.
Battens.
Which
Coles battens, yeah.
He's done a whole thing on in the last season of Tiny Workshop.
I made those battens 20 years ago.
And they're still being used.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So that'll protect the edge. I'm also going to be using some battens to make sure that the panels stay really flat. So I clamp them top and bottom.
Yeah, okay.
Now, to join these 2 pieces together, if your pieces of timber are perfectly straight, you could, in theory, not use any biscuits or any other fasteners that go in the center.
Like a dowel or something like that.
Exactly, yeah, there's a couple ways of doing this. Biscuits are a really common technique to join panels like this. They're these little biscuits of timber. They go in that slot, and it means that when you push these two pieces together, it helps you with alignment. Now,
do they have any inherent strength?
they have a little bit, but not a whole lot. Really, their primary goal is to help with alignment. In some circumstances, they can have some strength. They expand when they get glue on them, so they really tighten up in that slot. The most common way to cut a slot like that is with a biscuit jointer, which is a tool that has one job, which is to cut a biscuit
It's a very
slot.
specific tool. So like if you're setting up a workshop for the first time, even if you've been doing it a while, might not actually own a biscuit jointer. So
I've
but
decided
everyone
to
has
use-
a trimmer, yeah? Not everyone, but a lot of people.
This is a really versatile tool. If you're not ready to buy a big router, a trimming router, I use it probably more than I use my large router. This is a slot cutting bit, which you can get from TimberCon. It's obviously a 1/4 inch because the trimming router has a smaller shank. Now this will cut the slot that you can see in this piece of timber. I've already cut a few of them. I'm going to cut 2 more that I've missed. And all you need to do is make sure that the slot on each board matches up. So you've just drawn some grey lead pencil lines on that. I'm going to get stuck into that.
Sure.
And then I'll glue these up and John can talk a bit about design.
Okay, so we won't talk about the specifics of this piece, but the reason why would you build a little tool cabinet like this for your space? Now, when you're working, and you'll notice that when we started here, Patrick had to pick up his trim router off the floor, which is a major drag. So when you're using hand tools or when you're making something on a small bench, you really want to have a place to lay your tools off so they're not into the way while you're working, yeah?
Do you guys want to see a quick shot of the
Yeah,
trimmer
get on to
working?
that, yeah. I really like that buttock clamping technique you're using there, yeah?
What's
So
that?
sitting on the board to work.
Well, look, it's easier to use my weight than a clamp, so
Very efficient use of time, yeah?
yep.
So as Patrick's gluing that up, we also decided to make this little cabinet mobile. So that means that you can move it anywhere in the space. So if you're doing something over there, you can drive it over there and it's nice and convenient, and you can have your, whatever you're working on, somewhere to put it. You can take it to barbecues if you wanted to impress your friends. And also I think too is that in a tiny workshop, if you needed to, compact everything up so you can get the car in during a hailstorm, a mobile cabinet's the way to go. So what's happening now, Patrick?
I'm just making sure I'm putting glue on both of these surfaces.
Sure.
Honestly, this is probably a bit too much glue. There'll be a fair bit of squeeze
Oh,
out,
it's
but
the pressure of television.
I'll
mate,
just
yeah.
wipe it off afterwards.
Sure.
Some of this glue has gone into the slot, which means I'll get really good contact on those biscuits as well. I really like to use a roller, a really small roller for this, but I just didn't happen to have one.
Here's your biscuits.
Thank you. Now, if you get these really gluey, you might sometimes find that you need to tap them in with a little mallet, but those have gone in fine. Now,
What type of glue are you using there?
it's just it's a PVA, it's a tight bond, type 1, I believe.
Type 1, yeah. So type 1's the one that sets the fastest, yeah? So you get,
Yeah.
once it's on the surface, it'll ping. So you've got to move quickly. Type on 2, which is the blue bottle, that gives you a bit more working time. And type on 3, which is like the super one, that gives you more working time, but it's got waterproof properties, and also it gives you a bit more working time when you're assembling something.
Now, I've made a fatal error, which is I hadn't accounted for the thickness of my battens
Oh, okay.
with the clamp here, so I just need to expand this a little bit.
Okay.
This is why preparation is very important.
Well, you try to, it's actually quite, after a long day slaving away for the big fella, and you come in here and you do a TV show, you're allowed to make a couple of little, tactical errors. Well, because basically it's a long day. There you go.
Okay, so that's that one. Thank you, sir. Now, the reason that we're using the battens, not these ones here, these ones are to protect the sides of the timber from the steel, but the reason I'm going to use these clamping battens on the top and the bottom here is to prevent any chance of those boards folding up or folding down because of the clamping pressure. So if you want to chuck a F-clamp on there,
with pleasure.
now make sure you've put tape on your battens.
Yeah, because we don't want them stuck to this permanently, basically. Little pony clamps have got a... I'm still getting used to the clutch mechanism on them. They are beautiful quality, but normally I don't use an F-clamp with a clutch, but I tell you what, they are stiff, yeah? All right, so while Patrick's finishing that up, we're going to go to a short break, and Jake's going to be doing his 3 ultimate electric tools. And after the break, we're going to come back and we're going to have a look at cutting this notched rail joint, which is the element which supports the shelf in this little cabinet. So we'll take a break. See you shortly.
Hi, I'm Jake. What power tools do you need to get started woodworking? We're going to talk about it today. So what do you need to get woodworking? Well, you need to be able to cut the timber down to width, you need to be able to cut it down to length, and then you need to join it together. So myself and the other guys at TimberCon thought, well, what's the best sort of trifecta of machines that, or rather power tools that are easily accessible that you can get started with right away. So what we came up with was essentially a cordless circular saw. You've got your cordless drill, and then you've got your standard drop saw. Now, why do you need these? Now, essentially, you need your circular saw will allow you to rip down the length of your timber. If you're careful enough, you can also cut it to length as well, although it'll probably leave quite a nasty, rough sort of finish. That's where your drop saw comes in. It'll allow you to cut down a 45 degree, it'll allow you to cut to length, and depending on the quality of the blade that you've got in it, it will give you a much nicer cut. And then of course you need to be able to join 2 pieces of timber together. Now if you just want to get started, you just want to screw some things together, you're going to need at least a drill, even better if you can get a drill with a driver capacity. So that will allow you to at least drill a hole and then put a screw through it. If you have the capacity to, you might as well go up to a 4th one and get yourself a separate driver. That just means that you can set this one aside and you won't have to change the heads and the torque setting constantly. It'll just make it that much easier. If you're working in a small garage, like I'm sure most of you can be, you don't want to be mucking around having to pull plugs out and chase cords around. So if you can, cordless is king. Unless it is your drop saw or say a hammer drill, then you probably want to go with corded. But for the sake of just getting started, cordless is king. And that's it. So we'll send you back to your regularly scheduled program.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We're going to have a quick look at what I got up to. I finished this glue up for now. I've wiped off the excess. So the battens are keeping everything straight. I've only used 2 of these sash clamps because the join was nice and tight. There wasn't any gaps in it. And what are you going to be up to, John?
Well, I'm going to make this rail and notch joint, all right? So in the case of brevity, I've actually pre-made a couple of these, but we're going to make one to see a little bit of joinery technique here. I first want to illustrate, rather than, a lot of people start marking out joints individually, what I did was mark out one pair of the joints and then I transfer it to all the others so I know that they're all correct. So, for example, what I'm going to do here is just pop that there. And here's my blank edge.
The joints that John's cutting, these 2 pieces are the side pieces, and he's cutting joints for rails to come across under these shelves. So that's what those notches are for.
So if you line that up sort of nicely so it's flush, these have already been marked out in advance. These are the tools I'm going to use. We've got a square and a knife to start with, okay? So simply pick up where that joint is there, run a line across. I don't have to measure, I had to measure the first one, but I don't have to measure anymore. If you keep measuring, that's where inaccuracies come from. Pick up that second line like so, mark it across there, pick up that third one, and that's marked the 3 positions. Okay, we can pop this out then, and just work on this piece exclusively. The next, I can continue on with my little square. Pick that up, marking that line down the edge, like so, like so. It's a lot of pressure doing this, live. I'll tell you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We did those mortise and tenon joints last time. That was crazy. Anyway, and marking that out as well. She will come from this side.
You can see why we wanted to do a few of these beforehand, because it's just not viable to do 8 cutouts like this and get them clean live on TV.
So we'll have a go though, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
The next thing we're going to do is use our scribe to mark the depth of the rail notch. Now, I know it's 19mm being store-bought timber, but I can just actually measure this straight off the old thickness of the timber, like so. Soft tighten, a little bit of an adjustment, and that's going to set the depth without actually having to go to the ruler. Speeds everything up a little. Mark that there, drawing it towards yourself. Flip it over. And there's your marked out joint. So now we're going to cut it. I'm not going to bother about pairing those shoulders. I'm just going to go for that line using my little Japanese saw.
Yeah, I mean, these joints will be reinforced with glue as well as dowels, so they're inherently very strong, and as long as John isn't wildly off with his cutting, which
you never know, I can't see anything anymore.
There's a chance, but chances are that fit will be pretty good. So we've chosen to use commonly available pine bought from a big hardware store. It's already dressed to thickness, which means we didn't have to run it through a thicknesser. Now, you could absolutely use a hardwood. It'd be a more expensive project, but for this, we just decided to use pine. This whole cart is going to have wheels on 4 corners, and you want to choose some wheels that are sturdy enough for the weight that you're carrying. You've got to keep in mind that when this is full of tools, it could easily be 100 kilos or more, and you want wheels that will lock. So we've chosen casters that will lock. They're not too high, so that's nice low profile wheels that will support that weight.
Sorry about all this noise.
Oh, that's okay. I'll keep talking loudly. As well as the shelves that you can see. On the back, underneath this overhang here, we're going to hang a whole bunch of bar clamps. And that's it. Just is a really great place to store the clamps, really close to where you use them. The whole length of this cabinet will be about 1 metre, and with a few other accessories, it'll be closer to 1200. So we can put our 1200mm bar clamps hanging on the back, and we'll talk about the techniques for creating a really effective bar clamp rack next week. The other thing that we've decided to do is use some of our French cleats that we talked about in the first episode to hang some other tools and accessories on both ends. So we'll kind of get into all of that detail. How you going, John?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm feeling the pressure a little bit, but, it's life in the fast lane.
So you've done a number of relief cuts?
Yeah, I think on this one, on the end cut, you can just use the saw, cut down
Right
across the grain and across down along the grain.
Yep.
On this cross cut, I'm going to pair that.
Yep.
Now, if you've got a chisel that's a little bit dull, well, this one's okay, but it's not 100%, just have rather than going back and resharpening, you can just, you know, strop your chisel a little every time. It's a two-sided strop. Just to bring that edge up a little. Because pine, you need a sharp chisel, otherwise it just won't cut it.
Now the way we're going to join the rails into those joints is where it's called, well, we don't actually know what it's called. It's a screw and dowel technique, and Jake's going to be talking, no, you're going to demonstrate that in a second, but we want your suggestions for what this joint is going to be called. So you'll see it detailed in just a second here once John's finished with his mortise.
I think that's a really good idea. I think that, because I use this technique occasionally to make stuff. I know a lot of woodworkers up north use it as well, but I don't know what the proper name is. Rail and screw? Dowel and screw?
I used them to join the legs onto the chair frame that I made in season 1, that drop saw chair that I made. I've always just called them exposed dowels, but there's a particular technique with those screws.
Yeah, okay. So let's see if this actually fits. Oh, it's a little bit loose, that one, but it's not bad. And this one on the end here.
Very nice.
Yeah. So that's basically the setup for the joinery. We're going to take a short break.
Yep.
We're going to have a look at the old screw and dowel technique. And after the break, we're going to come back and we're going to assemble this cabinet.
And don't forget to give us your suggestions about what this technique should be called.
Exactly. Hey there, welcome to this tiny workshop, tiny tips segment. My name's John Madden. Now, if you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our little tiny tips. What we're doing here today is we're looking at an easy way to glue and screw bits of wood together. We're building a little workshop cabinet that doesn't need elaborate joints. So I'm going to show you how to glue and screw something together very easily using simple tools that looks great. Now we only need a simple set of tools to make this screw and dowel joint that I'm going to call it, okay? We've got our marking out gear, so we've got a scribe, a marking gauge, sorry. We've got a ruler, a pencil, and a brad awl, all to some. We've got some drilling gear. We've got a 9mm drill bit, we've got a little Kennesack drill bit, and I've got a little driving mechanism. I've got a flush cut saw, a hammer, and some glue. I've also got this little sneaky setup of clamps here that I'm going to use to hold my pieces of timber while I put this joint together. What we're going to do is we're going to glue, screw it together, then take the screws back out again and replace it with a piece of dowel. And this looks great and it's very strong. I'm going to set my 2 drilling points 15mm from either edge. Using my cordless drill and a countersink driving bit, I'm going to drill that hole. So this piece of wood that I made earlier is dried and ready to add the dowels to. And what we're going to do is drill that hole out using this drill bit. Now, to reduce the chance of the wood tearing when we do this, if I drill straight in there, disaster. Let's get our little countersink bit again and drill that hole out. Then we can use our other drill to drill out the hole for the dowel. Just gently. Thanks for watching this Tiny Tips episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My name's John Madden. Hello, welcome back to the Tiny Workshop. How you going, Patrick? It's been a tough night tonight.
I'm glad we have these breathers in between and catch my breath.
Hey, before we start again, remember, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell.
Hit the notification button.
Yeah, so we can all, move forward into wherever we're going. Now, we've already had someone give us some feedback on the name of the screw and dowel technique. What was it, a scowl?
Scowl joint. I think that's pretty
How do
creative.
you spell scowl?
Scowel, maybe? Scowl.
It sounds very nautical.
Yeah, I like it. If someone told me that's what it's called, I'd be like, oh yeah, okay.
I'm going to assure you, whoever's recommended that name is actually the front runner for a $50 gift voucher, so keep them coming. So what we're going to do now, Patrick, or what we're going to do together is assemble this carcass.
Okay,
right?
so the piece that we're doing currently on the desk is the bottom plate, and we're going to be joining these two side pieces to it.
Okay, so having assembled about 1 billion Oregon cabinets in the 90s in Sydney, this is a technique that you can use to assemble a little cabinet like this that's suitable for one person. So you lay your base piece up there on the bench, get a couple of long clamps and a square, and just clamp that straight up on the bench like that. Now, where are we sitting? See? Wow, first time.
Pretty good.
That's going to sit there and hold in position. Probably a good idea to put two up because, if it falls off on the floor, well, that's just what you call a disaster. How are we going for squares?
Beautiful. Absolutely excellent. And this is the perfect size because we can do both sides at once. Or like...
Well, that's right. I mean, it's a small bench, but we can use the bench as an inherent part of the glue up, so which is great. Okay, so we've got the side panel here, and you can see that what we did earlier...
This looks like my side.
Yeah, that's your side. It doesn't really matter,
We
actually.
pre-drilled this
Yeah.
partly as a way of having it already marked out. It's just a simple way of making sure you're not doing too much in location. And so we're going to put this in line, and then we're going to drill through those holes to make sure that the actual meat of this timber has been pre-drilled. Otherwise, you might risk splitting it.
Yeah.
Then we're going to glue and screw that.
Yeah.
And then, like John demonstrated on that video, we'll take those screws out. And
If you've seen the video, you would have seen what happened there. So if you just pass me the glue, please, Patrick.
there you go. And you'll need the drill.
We'll do this end and then we'll... they're the same.
Yeah, they are the same.
they're
Yep.
the same.
Yep.
Bit of glue along that edge. This is like the scowl, but it's also a butt joint. So I don't have the word
We want to
a
do
scowled butt joint.
the plates on the back. This was a technique
yeah.
that
So-
John showed me before.
Good point. Oh, we need those clamps, please.
Yep.
Just to help you align this a little, because it gets a bit crazy in the workshop, just clamp a block on here like so. Thank you, Patrick, for reminding me I'd forgotten. And so when you stand this up, we'll need that square. We can just push it in against that. And the alignment we're looking for is getting the bottom edge of that side gable level with the underside of the floor. And
If this isn't perfectly square, there'll still be enough flexibility in the object for us to square it up in a second. But we're ready to do that
hold
first.
A little bit of drilling, it's always good fun. Then the dowel and scowl, that's a pub, yeah? I think it's in Hobart. Yeah. Ooh, not too much. Okay, we'll get that bottom edge aligned. I wish we had a camera around here to see this, but it's a bit hard. Okay, another screw. You get in here, Shelton. Like so, and then with these last two, I'm actually going to pop that off now.
Yep.
It's kind of in the way, and you can set up on yours. Little pilot hole, so it drives in neatly, doesn't split the timber. I'll get you some more screws for that. And then we can just And make sure whenever you butt and screw something like this together, that the bows work in unison. So the bow of that side is this. So when you screw it off, it pulls the bow into the end grain. Otherwise it'll peel off later in life. Okay, you good?
Yep.
You got screws?
Yep.
Okay. So while Patrick's doing that, you're right?
Yep.
All good. We'll get the other rails out and lay them across here as well. Now, for the sake of the brevity, because we're up to 32 minutes in the feed, we'll just do the two top rails because it's important not only to have the base in place, but also the upper rail in place so we can square this cabinet up, yeah? At this point, a good way to do that is just to drop a tape and measure your diagonals. That clamps in the way. So we'll look at that properly when we get to that part of the demonstration.
This can get out of here.
Let's just check. Right, a little bit of glue and we'll do these as well.
Now, I'm not sure if John mentioned, we pre-drilled these already for exactly the same reason. And we'll be doing the same technique of pre-drilling everything.
Well, you have to in a pre-manufactured world, pre-drilled world. What's the world coming to where everything's pre-drilled? I don't know.
So these have been cut flush, so we're going to line them up as accurately as we can.
You got screws?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Just pop those two green clamps off. Two torquata clamps. Now these don't need to drive right in necessarily. It's just to pin the piece while that glue dries. All right, we might just do a quick
Do you want to do it flat?
Yeah, so this is a classic technique. We got 1295 mil, 1292. So we need to push it yay. So if you push on that, just give it a little squeeze. Let's turn it over. Now, appreciating that this is not a high piece of craft here we're making a workshop cabinet. So let's keep things in perspective. There's a piece behind you. Cool. Yep. I'll do where'd my glue go?
Yep.
Oh, you can do that, yeah.
Yeah, I think 3 mil is totally reasonable for that piece of joinery. There's going to be so much flex in it afterwards anyway.
But you can also just drop like a sash clamp on there to squeeze it into shape. So, and this shop bought timber is not, 100%. It's not bad.
It's not even 90%.
Well, I think it's better than 90%. It's all the nice same colour yellow. All right. I'll let you get a screw in there before I do that. Grazie. You can see we've got two guys working on this. Sometimes when you're building stuff on your own, don't underestimate the value of planning ahead, because I've had more than one incident when I've gone into a glue up without actually doing a dry run. Because once the glue's on, you start sticking stuff together and it's not right, you can be in trouble. But it is also amazing, Patrick, how often you can do a dry run, then come back for the real thing and it's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as soon as you put glue on stuff, it'll often expand. Sometimes things won't fit anymore.
What's the measurement, right? What have we got?
Yeah, it's 1295, 1292. So,
this is 1295?
no, this is the 1292.
Okay.
So
Just squeeze.
we could, yeah, just that way.
sometimes you can, like saddling a horse, you just have to manhandle it in a very gentle, humane way, just to make it right.
And if you're finding, that's perfect. If you're finding that it's wanting to spring back to being uneven, then you want to put a clamp on there, skew it slightly in the direction you want the case to skew, and then you just hold it. You'll find that you'll need a really small amount of pressure to do that though.
Exactly.
Like barely any.
And you clamp on the longest edge, you know, go back to high school trigonometry and you'll be fine. Now, you've got a rag there, let's just grab that and give that back end a clean. So we don't have any terrible staining. Because once you get glue on the surface of timber, it doesn't come off unless you move it fast. So.
And you'll find that even if it dries and you can't see it, once you put oil on it or any kind of finish, it'll totally mess up the finish. So we're going to put 2 more rails in here when you guys aren't watching. And then next week, we want to put the rest of the shelves in and put a whole bunch of accessories on this. We'll put the wheels on. We might make a nice little tray for it. So
now let's cut to the part that everyone really wants to know about, which is the winners from last week. Okay, so we started with the guessing comp. Yeah, now remember, that can stay there. My jar of stuff. All right. Now, for those who are going to question me, I actually went through and counted it, and I got a little bit lost on the way, and I thought I'll recount this. I thought I'm not wasting my time with this anymore. So,
what'd you come up with?
All right. So, I have to say that the closest person to the count, there's 456 items in here, lots of little tiny screws at the end there. But actually, the closest person was Haig Haswell, owner of TimberCon, with 666. But he probably wouldn't appreciate a TimberCon gift voucher, so stuff him, yeah?
On the night, I said, I reckon that's the closest.
There's a lot of stuff in there. Okay, so we had Fix It Fingers, Hey Fix It, with 2,042. Mate, you were way off. And better luck next time. We had Isaac Nolt with 163. Peter Bennett with 137. Yeah, get your glasses checked, mate. But the closest person who we're going to award this to is Lazarus. Yes, Lazarus.
You've got to get in touch with us, though.
Yeah,
Send us an email.
364, pretty good. Send us an email at TimberCon. What's the Tiny Workshop?
tinyworkshop@timbercon.com.au.
I can't remember that. Send that, and we'll send you a $50 gift voucher. Now, the other competition we had, or not really competition, we had someone who was really active in our chat last week called Cresco Cresmere. Now, maybe from Northern Europe name, I'm not sure. But Cresco, you have won a $50 gift voucher for just being online and being involved, okay? Good job, yep. And the last winner is for the best description of a French cleat. Now, we had a few attempts, but I got an email from Peter Bennett who gave me about a 1,000-word essay on what the where that word originated from. It's got a lot to do with guillotines and the shape of the edge of the blades and so forth.
Even if it wasn't true, it sounded like he knew what he was talking about.
He does, and I can't actually pronounce half the words on this page. So, Peter, congratulations. I've got your email address. We're going to send you a $50 TimberCon gift voucher as well.
If you missed last week, go check it out. We explained a fantastic way to hang this stuff and move it all around.
Yeah, cool. All right, so using a French cleat. All right, so that's the show tonight. A little bit longer than normal, but there was a fair bit of work to get through. Come back next week and we're going to finish building this cabinet up. It's going to be a great help in your workshop. It'll really help your productivity, so stay tuned and subscribe with TimberCon. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thanks, John. Thanks for being here, guys. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks for watching the show. See you next week.